Hi guys, welcome back to another video tutorial where we are still looking at the topic of programming in C, and for this video tutorial we will be proceeding to look at the various control structures that we use within the main section of our C program. The first control structure that we will be looking at is referred to as the decision or the selection control structure. And the purpose of this control structure is, as it indicates, to make a decision between whether it is two or more, or even some cases it will be based on one criteria. So we will be looking at the examples as it relates to these. Where the selection control structure is concerned, we use what we refer to as if statements. So the context can be an if then statement or if then else statement. So the if statement is used using this current syntax that we have here on screen, where it indicates if a condition is true, then we are going to proceed to performing the particular action that is given, and then if there is nothing else, then we would proceed to end. So this is what we're going to be moving into at this point, just to see. So an example of an if statement could be deciding whether a person is a male or female, and then in a case like that, the computer would collect maybe the initial M or F from that person, and let's say we only wanted to display a message on screen if the person was a male. Then if they entered M, they would see a message displayed, maybe you are a male. However, if female was entered based on this syntax that we have here, then there would be nothing printed on screen because that did not require an action to be performed. So automatically the computer would just go ahead and end the program there. So we're now going to proceed to see a live example of this selection control structure being used. Alright, so now we have our outline. We can now begin writing our C program, and of course we know the various sections that we will be utilizing. So line 1, we have our preprocessor and header file. Alright, following this we have our main section. In our main is where we start to collect the desired information that we need, such as our declaration of variables, initialization of variables, as well as constants if we're using those, and then proceeding to using our input and output statements. So the first that we're starting off with is the declaration of our variables, and in this case we want to test if a person is a male based on the letter that they enter. So for this, we will not be collecting the full word male, but we will just be collecting the first initial, which is the letter M, and the data type that collects only one character is in fact a character, but in this case the shortening is char, followed by the variable name. So we're testing for gender. Alright, following this, we now want to proceed with displaying a message on screen because we don't necessarily need any more data type or variables. We're just testing for gender. So the message that we want to print out on screen maybe is please enter the letter to match your gender. Right, so the user would come and see this message on screen, and then now we want to proceed to the section where they are able to enter that letter. Alright, so from here we have our scanf to collect user input, and within the parentheses we have two sections. We have one in the double quotation, which is the format string. So what data type are we using for the gender? It is in fact character, so it's %C. On the outside of the double quotation we have our comma, and then the location where we want to store the input that was given by the user. So for this we have the ampersand for gender. As you also notice, we have used the ampersand where it concerns character, direct character, as well as numeric data types. The only time we did not use this was when we were using the string data type. Alright, so at the end of this we have the double quotation. So far we have a message displayed on screen, and we also collect a letter from the user to represent their gender. So now we want to proceed to making a decision as to what happens when this user comes and enter that letter. So again, we're testing using an if statement. So we're saying if what is the condition that is expected to be true, and then at the end of it, what is the action to be performed. So in this case, we want to test if the gender is equal to the letter M, and because it is a text-based value or character, it goes into a single quotation. So we're testing if the gender is equal to M, then we proceed to our next line to say what is going to be happening. In this case, a message is expected to be printed on screen to say you are a male. So printf, parenthesis, double quotation, you are a male. Alright, and then from here we can close at the end with our semicolon. So this is us testing based on one criteria, and this is what we refer to as the if then statement. So this is based on the condition that is true. So if the person did in fact enter the letter M, then they are expected to see this message on screen. So let's go ahead and run this to see what the result will be. Alright, I am awaiting the message, and the message comes up, please enter the letter to match gender, and then the user go ahead and enter the letter M. Once I hit enter on my keyboard, I should see the message displaying you are a male, and automatically from that is completed, the program would directly go to finish up because there was no other instruction given to be. Alright, so in the next case now, let's say the person entered the letter M as gender. So we're gonna be testing for that. Alright, so I select F, and I am seeing a message here displayed on screen, you are a male. Automatically this is an incorrect, this is not the result that we're expecting, so there must be something that is not going right within the program. Alright, so on line 9, what this is indicating is that there was an assignment made to say that if the gender was assigned the value of M, then the message would be displayed on screen. Alright, so we want to say no, we want to concrete this to say if the letter M is entered, then the message should be displaying you are a male. If there is any other letter entered, then they should not be seeing this message. How is it that we can go ahead and allow this to take place? Still in line 9, where we're testing if gender is equal to, we would use two equal signs just to represent and what we refer to as a AND logic gate, meaning that this has to be directly an M for this exact message to be printed out on screen. So if it is not an M, then automatically this person should not be seeing a message. And seeing that I added the second equal sign, we're gonna now retest to see if I enter the F again, if we will still be receiving this message. Alright, so the message is here again, and I select the letter F, and once I select enter, then as you can see, no longer did I receive the message you are a male. So in fact the program is running correctly. Alright, so that was the first part where we tested if the condition was true. If it was a case where for this part we would want to print out a message if it was either male or female. So if it was male, we would want the message to say you are a male, and even if a female came and entered, we would still want that gender to see a message. Then in this case we would go ahead and use what we refer to as the if then else statement. So we're saying now, if the condition is true based on what we give, we're going to be performing a certain action, right? And in an automatic case, this second part after the else would indicate that, meaning If the condition was not true, then proceed to the second line. So let's say if we wanted to find out if the gender was M, then we would perform the first action, but the person came and entered F, then what the computer would do is to overlook this part and proceed to the next section where we can find the message that would be displayed for the female. And again, we're going to proceed now to see this in action. In a case now where we wanted to test if the condition was not true, if the person entered the next letter, which is F, then they could also go ahead and receive a message, but not this message on screen. How is it that we would proceed? Well, earlier we stated the if then else statement. So we're saying if the gender is equal to M, then they would see this. However, what if it was a case where it was not equal to M? Then we also want the next gender to see a message showing their correct gender. So we would proceed to the second part using our else word to know that we're separating now to our next aspect of this, to the false section of that condition then, right? So realize that the true section to that condition was not the message that we were expected. So the computer would then proceed to the next section to test the false, and in fact that would be the message to be this. So if gender is equal to M, print out this. However, the else would mean that if it was not M, then print out this next line. So what is the line to be printed out? Alright, so the message could say you are a female. And for this we're going to be testing for both, just so that you can see the message. Alright, I'm just going to add the return value 0 there as part of this. Alright, so I go ahead now and select my run the program, debug and run, and then now the message pops up, enter the letter to match your gender. So again I go ahead and select M, I get the message you are a male. Alright, the second instance now I want to test the other gender, right? So this now is F. If I look into the code, the message that I should be seeing for the next letter outside of M, it should be saying you are a female. Then I could go ahead and enter, and in fact this time the message is showing correct. So this was just a quick example of how we are able to use a selection or a decision statement to make a comparison or to make a decision between 1, 2 or more entries that are given within a program. I do hope that this video tutorial was clear for you, and please stay tuned for the next video tutorial where we will be looking at how to use different types of loops within our program. Thank you so very much for watching.